Welcome to the Straight from the Source's Mouth podcast. Frank talk about sex and dating.
Hello, everyone. Tamara here. Welcome to the show. Today's guest is Milla Impola from Global Protection, and we'll be talking about navigating safe sex, condoms, and demystifying common sex taboos. Thanks for joining me, Milla.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, always love to inform the listeners. So do you want to talk about what Global Protection is?
Sure. So Global Protection is a distributor and manufacturer of sexual health products. So once we do condoms, lubricants, dental dams. If you want to create your own condom brand, we have private label options. We do custom condoms where a lot of people print their face, for example, on a condom or a fun design or something. So we can also do that. And then a big part of what we do is also education. So we have educational materials. We work with sex educators and health departments on educational content, because when it comes to sex, when you can talk about sex and know about sex, you can have great sex. So education is very much also at the heart of what we do.
Yeah.
And then we have a wide range of products from products that we manufacture. So MyOne condoms, which are often known as the round wrapper condoms with the different designs on them. We have custom fit condoms under the MyOne line, some brands like Atlas and Trustex, and then we distribute also other people's brands. So lots and lots of things, but basically anything and everything around condoms and lubes is what we're really passionate about.
Okay. And like you sold me on the educating people part, because that's very important to me as well. Try to educate and sometimes recommend books too. And this is more of your company stuff, but I like that you educate. All right. And so the first thing we were going to talk about is how to navigate safe sex and talking about safe sex, like how to approach it.
Yeah. So especially around safer sex, there's so many things that we recommend. For example, have the conversation before you get to like a sexual situation, right? Whether you want to say, even text it ahead of time, say, hey, I want to talk about safer sex, or if you're on a date. Or a lot of our customers talk about like, I put it right in my dating profile, or I talk about it on the first date. And I mean, you can say, hey, I'm not looking for this date to necessarily lead to sex, but here are some key things like condoms are important to me, or I am on birth control, and all these things. Like talking about safer sex practices ahead of time is important. And also testing out different condom styles. Like one of the common things that I hear all the time is, Milla, all condoms are the same. It's just different packaging, which it's not true. I promise it's not true. There's so many different things that brands do. You know, condoms are a medical device, so there's definitely lots of testing and regulatory, but from different styles, like we have a glow in the dark and studded and flavored and ribbed and all those things, to just the material that condoms are made of. There's hard versus softer latex. Softer latex tends to move with you. You know, you can put different amounts of lubricant into the condom wrapper itself. There's different materials, like latex condoms is the most common one, but there's also non-latex condoms on the market. We have something really cool called One Flex that combines latex with graphene. So it helps make the condom really thin and strong and with 85% better heat transfer. So there's lots and lots of kind of things to try. And we always say, of course, what's a fun science experiment to do with a partner is try all kinds of different condoms. And we've even customers send us like, okay, we got all your condoms and rated them, and here's what we think about each of them. And it's always fun to read that feedback.
Yeah. And I know, well, not some men can complain about, wearing them and how they lose feeling and stuff. And so what would you say to that? Are there some that isn't the case? Like if you try the different types, like you said, or?
Yeah. One thing that I always recommend, like if you've tried a bunch of different condoms and you don't feel much, right? Even when you try the thin condoms and you're like, I lose a lot of sensation, is it might actually be due to fit. So that's why we also have under the MyOne condoms brand a separate line called MyOne Custom Fit, where it's 52 whole sizes. Because when people hear 52 sizes, often they'll also look at me and say, Milla, why do you need that many sizes? Like, I can stretch a condom over my arm. Don't they fit everyone? And isn't every man who says condoms don't fit me a liar? I promise they're not all, right? Because for two big reasons. One, stretching a condom over the arm is a lot different than putting it on a penis, right? When my arm can withhold a lot of pressure. Like condoms do stretch, but often when people say condoms are too small for me, what they really mean is that the circumference is too tight. And either, I have it on my wrist right now, but either it causes what our customers so lovingly call the red ring of death, where it leaves that really painful purple mark, like leaving a rubber band on your wrist too long, or it simply is so tight in circumference that it causes instant erection loss. There's a whole, Google Scholar's like filled with articles around condom associated erection loss that are fascinating. And it's usually because the condom is just too tight and a penis is working so hard to keep an erection and it just can't. Like the condom is so tight that it instantly causes erection loss. So of course that person's going to say, I cannot keep an erection with this condom. So that's why I don't use condoms, which has been tricky. And that's why under the MyOne brand, we have 10 different length options from 4.7 to 9.3 inches long, which, that's a big length difference. And also from super snug to super wide. So it helps resolve that. And then on the other side of things, where people also can struggle with condoms is condoms just simply being too big. Like condoms are very long for a lot of people. They're too long for about 91% of people. And often people also need a tighter fit. So that's where MyOne has some of those snugger sizes. And out of all 52, the snuggest one is actually our number one seller and has been every single month for the last 7 years, which people are often surprised to find out. So that's where, like, even if you don't like condoms because they don't fit right, you're definitely not alone. And that's why we're excited to have so many sizes that if that is the challenge that people have, then they can at least try different sizes and see if that will help.
Yeah. And I think you have also where you can, like a sizing thing where you can help the person figure out which is the right size for them. How does that work?
Yeah, we call it the Fit Kit measuring tool. So the lengths are in letter codes. So you measure from the base to tip, and the Fit Kit tool will tell you right on the tool what length you are from C to D to F. And then you wrap it all the way around, and you could be a 45 or a 64. It's kind of like bra sizes. Then you're a 45C or a 64M, and you can go right on our website and get a sample of that specific size to test out. Or, if you don't want to print the measuring tool on our website, we also have laminated versions that we hand out at a lot of events and stuff. If you, don't want to use like the work printer to print a penis measuring tool at our office, that's okay, but maybe not at every single office. You can also just measure with a measuring tape. But if you're not, a sewer, you might not have a measuring tape. So you can also use a ruler. But of course, a ruler will help you measure length, but you can't measure a ruler around the penis. So what we say is you can use like a piece of paper or your, like your phone cord or something, and you can use that to measure around, wrap it around the penis, and then use the ruler to measure that length. So we have lots of ways. We even made a fun blog once, like use common household items to figure out your penis size, like a Keurig cup and other things. Not going to be as scientific, but there's lots of ways to measure it for sure.
Yeah. And it can be fun too if you do as a couple, just trying to figure it out. Or if a guy wants to do it in private and order his own size without advertising what the size is. And so, that's why even we came up. So MyOne has been on the US market for 7 years. Actually, this week was our 7th birthday week. But in the very beginning, we had a lot of questions come up, particularly from partners of condom users. So who would say, hey, I think, my boyfriend's condom isn't quite fitting right, but I don't know how to bring it up to him. Do you have some advice? And then that's where out of those questions, we said, you know what, like we were sitting out in the conference room saying, yeah, we can give some advice, but our customers give the best advice. So that's where Measure a Penis Day, which we launched back in 2020, which Google now recognizes as a holiday. If you type it in, when is Measure Penis Day? But it's February 1st to kick off National Condom Month, 2 weeks before Valentine's Day, where our customers helped give their advice. Like, how did they bring it up with a partner? So some people said, make it part of like role play. Like somebody said they put on a construction hat and said, hey, I would like to measure your penis tonight. Or foreplay, or somebody said they held up a few bananas and said, hey, which one do you think you are? Like, which size of these bananas? So that's what even Measure Penis Day for us every year is about, just helping people have conversations and normalize this idea that yes, penises come in different sizes. And that's why we have condoms in different sizes. Kind of like if there was one shoe size and we said, okay, we're going to line up 20 people and every person's going to wear this one shoe size. Well, it might fit well for some, but some it would
fall off immediately, or some would say I cannot fit into that shoe. So
yeah, exactly. And like bra sizes too. And I know someone had said, if it was more obvious for how the size of guys were, like our breasts are, the world would be a different place
right.
if everyone could easily see.
Exactly.
But yeah, at least they get to have it in private. And then, but yeah, it would definitely help the people that think they can't wear one, find one that fits. That's awesome. And also
and I mean, we have like people who send us like very long stories and paragraphs, like, oh, for the last 30 years, because condoms have always been so big, I've worried that they're going to slip off, that I have to hold on to the condom during sex the whole time, which is so horrible, right? Like that's not a pleasurable experience for anybody. And a lot of our customers talk about like, because I can now wear something that fits, the condom gets out of the way. And instead of like focus on what the condom is doing, I can focus on my partner and pleasure and where both my hands are. So it is for that, also just hearing these stories of reduced anxiety about the condom and just being able to actually focus on the fun parts of sex is great.
Yeah. That's the whole point of it, is to enjoy sex and have pleasure.
Yes.
And I guess there is one that's now FDA approved for anal sex, which, yeah, that's not usually very helpful or workable.
Yeah, for us, that was a big deal. We worked on that for 10 years because condoms have historically only been approved for vaginal, sorry. So condoms, because they're a medical device, any medical device has what's called an intended use. So forever, that just said condoms are intended for vaginal use. Anal use was considered off-label use. Of course, they work for that purpose. And it's not because the FDA doesn't like anal, I promise, which is also a question I get asked. But it's because somebody had to take the time to study, to run basically a study and use condoms during that study for anal, and then show evidence that, yes, of course, they work for that purpose. So that's what we did with Emory University down in Atlanta. They ran this study for us. We took the results from that study, took it to the FDA, and we can now say our condoms are also approved for butt stuff, as we say, butt stuff approved. So,
okay.
But for us, the big deal was just because they've always worked for anal. We just wanted to kind of show confidence for people that, yes, they work for that. They've been tested for that. We recognize that this is a big way a lot of people how people have pleasure in sex is anal. So for us, it was a big public health kind of communications goal, was to get that information out there.
Okay, awesome. And I know we're also going to talk about common sex taboos, since anal can be that for some people. What other demystifying taboos would you talk about? Or
definitely the measuring one. Like measuring can be fun. And another thing that we did this year is our customers, similar to kind of how Measure Penis Day was born out of customer questions, we celebrated Foreskin Day this year. Because a lot of our customers sent us questions, or have been sending us questions about, hey, I have a foreskin. How do I measure? Like, do I retract my foreskin? Do I not? Do you have recommendations for which condom styles work for me? And we had some advice, right? We had some advice on the website, but then we said, okay, this question is coming up enough now that, again, like, let's ask our customers. They love to tell us stories and their experiences. So we designed this whole survey in advance of the day that said, have you ever struggled with condoms? What condoms do you like to use? We found out that 79% of people with a foreskin said that they've had trouble with condoms, and like it bunching up in the condom bunching up in the foreskin, not really being sure what to do, like how to measure and all that stuff. So, and then, so because of that and all that feedback, we were able to make a bunch of recommendations. Like people with a foreskin tend to like condoms that are more lubricated, and making sure to put a tip of lubricant inside the condom to help with the condom not bunching. And then a lot of them also recommended the custom fit line, because then you can get less length and to make sure that, it doesn't get caught up in the foreskin. And also, the different styles that we have, like Pleasure Plus, where there's more room, like there's headroom at the top. So that helps with that. And ultimately, again, for us, it was about body positivity and celebrating. Like, I'm from Europe, so I'm very used to foreskin conversations in Europe. In America, I feel like it's really stigmatized and kind of a like hush-hush conversation, where for us, we're always like, okay, if our customers are asking, let's do something about it and let's talk about it. And I know that, the conversation can also be, polarizing sometimes, but for us, it was about education, body positivity. Because unfortunately, also, a third of the people in the survey said that they had been treated differently by a sexual partner when they found out that they have a foreskin. So for us, again, it was about celebrating body positivity. We have a whole guideline on foreskin pleasure on our website. So just starting those conversations that sometimes don't often get talked about or educated about.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, here in the U.S. especially, when I first started, there were hardly any podcasts that specifically on sex, like maybe 50. There are a lot more now, but that was 3 years ago. But now there's definitely more. But and then at podcast conference, I talk about this in with other guests. Like, there's thousands, hundreds of people, and there'll be like 5 or 6 of us or 8 of us that talk about this kind of stuff. So it's just not as common. But most people are doing it. So like you said, we should be able to talk about it.
Yeah. And in relationships, like it really does help when you can talk about it. And understanding like libido changes and all that kind of stuff. And if you can just have a conversation with your partner or partners about sex, it really does help. And for us, we often recommend yes, no, maybe lists also. They're fun to get the conversation going, where they're usually sheets that you can print out on the website. We have our own version of it on onecondoms.com where it's basically printed out. I mean, I'm sure there's online versions, but I love a good printed piece of paper. But you can check off certain activities, anal, foreplay, things like that, role play, and then swap papers and like talk about like where's your yeses, where's your nos, where's your maybes, and just a good way to get a conversation going about what you might want to try that maybe you haven't mentioned to anybody in the past.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the name. There's another quiz like for alternative stuff like BDSM and all the stuff we willing to do or not willing to do, and sites out there. But since you did mention your website, you want to say again like how they find you guys and like what kind of stuff they'll see if they go to your website?
Sure. Yeah. So we have the globalprotection.com is our corporate site. So if you're like a nonprofit or a reseller or something where it's like a B2B website and more about our company, that's globalprotection.com. Then onecondoms.com is where you find condoms like One Flex and MyOne custom fit condoms, glow in the dark condoms, whatever, all our educational content. There's also programs. We have a college ambassador program. If you're in a local band and you want cool like condom cases with your band logo, we just launched the One on Stage program, loyalty program called Momentum. So that's all on onecondoms.com. And we're on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff, just at onecondoms.com. If you want to print your own face or logo on a condom, you can do that at customcondoms.com. And then one thing that's super fun for Halloween, a lot of our historical stuff, Global Protection has been around for over 30 years. We did condoms with Prince and U2 and all kinds of stuff. Some of those items are going to be featured at Museum of Sex in Miami, and they're having a launch party on Halloween. So that's open to the public. So if you're in Miami area, go check out some of our stuff at that museum.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was one. I should probably know that since I have a podcast about sex.
It's their launch. They're just opening it now. So
yeah, but it's called the Museum of Sex, as I said, or museum.
Okay. Yeah. So they've had the one in New York City for years and years now, and now they're opening one up in Miami.
Okay. All right. Are there other taboos or anything else you wanted to just mention, or?
I think one is just like lubricant is your friend. I think that can be also still a bit taboo. Like if you're using lube, something must be wrong with you. But and it comes in so many different styles: water-based, silicone, hybrid, natural, all kinds of things. So one of the things we recommend is using lubricant, especially with condoms, because there's only so much you can put on a condom in the wrapper of a condom, right? Because there's a safety, or the seal has to be able to seal correctly without lubricant getting caught in the seal, right? So yes, most condoms are lubricated, but using additional lubricant with condoms really does help prevent condom breakage, and makes, sex pleasurable, more comfortable, all that stuff. So yeah. Lube is great.
I definitely agree. Especially with condoms, like you said. It's just especially if they're having a longer session than others, like you keep going, you're going to need more lubrication.
Yeah, so. 100%.
All right. Well, we can leave it there unless you have something else.
I think I'm all good. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for having me again. It was great to be here today.
Yes. And if you like this episode, be sure to tell your friends about it and rate it as well. And thank you again, Milla, for being on.
Awesome. Thank you.
Ready.
Frank Talk, sex and dating educates.